Staff that the items on today's items constitute essential business of this body and that meeting electronically is necessary to protect the health, safety, and welfare of Tennesseans in light of the COVID-19 outbreak. Are there any objections? I'll also note that today's meeting is being live streamed by Metro ITS on Metro Network 2. So at this time, committee members, please let me know if you are on this call. Margaret Bam?
Yes.
Dan Hogan?
Yes.
Anna Page? Okay. And I've not heard from her. I don't know if you have Monica, but maybe she will join us shortly. And we also have several other board members present this morning. I want to thank you for taking the time to be a part of this meeting as well as our other visitors on this call. The first item on the agenda is consideration of the minutes from the August 25th, 2020 meeting. Last week, you should have received the minutes from the August 25th meeting. Are there any questions or comments?
I move approval.
Okay, there's a motion to approve. A second?
Second.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion approved to accept the minutes as presented. Thank you. So the sole purpose of this meeting, in August when we had our meeting, the committee was really meeting to receive the report from our consultants, and I thought it was a very thorough report. And so today, the ultimate goal of this meeting is just to discuss potential next steps following the report and recommendations that we received from CAA ICON. So I think you should have received the report, but I think the most appropriate place to start is maybe to just go to page 42 of the executive summary. And maybe I will those recommendations, and then we can take them on and figure out where we should best spend our time and actually have an open dialogue around these recommendations as to what our next steps will be. I think you see it up on the screen. Of course, if your eyes are like mine, I can't see that very well. So I've got a printout here that has most of it. They cut off my ends. But basically, there were 6 recommendations that came out of the executive summary. The first one was to engage in discussions with any potential ownership groups that may emerge as a result of the initiative. To hold follow-up discussions with each of the NWSL, WNBA, and NWHL to more specifically discuss expansion and relocation plans, timelines, interest in the market, venues, etc. The third recommendation was to schedule meetings with appropriate political subdivisions, private partners, and local universities as applicable to discuss study findings and understand preliminary interest in potential partnerships. Complete specific market analysis and estimates of operating performance for one or all of the franchises in the leagues above. Pending completion of the tasks above, analysis should include focus groups and corporate interviews to understand specific league sport preferences. Identify potentially suitable venue solutions for one or all of the franchises based on completion of the tasks above, dependent on franchise, venue combination, develop estimate for capital investment required, and finally to re-engage leagues, ownership groups, and political partners with plans for venue investment, modification as applicable, and estimates of operating performance. And that's a mouthful. So I think a good place to start, I know Margaret has serves as the advisory committee chair. And so, Margaret, if you don't mind, why don't you jumpstart our conversation around this, and then we can work throughout these items that we have on the recommendation list.
Thanks, Kathy. Well, I see there's several members of our advisory committee here, so thank you very much for joining us. And I also want to encourage them to as I know you do, Kathy and Dan, to just jump in at any point in time because we need their help. That's why they were on the advisory committee. We still need their input. And also Brian and Dan, Brian Slater and Dan Barrett, I see you all are on the call. Thank you again for all the work that you did. And there's a lot to do here, a lot of next steps. One of the things that I think we need to consider as a committee is recommending to the Sports Authority that we distribute, parts of this plan to the public, make a public announcement of what our consultants have found in a way that's meaningful and having timing that, is appropriate. Some of these things that are in the summary are behind the scene things that the Sports Authority would need to think about doing, but also some of the things that we talked about with Brian and Dan was what kind of marketing push that we would do, what kind of signals we would send as a community. One thing that they told us that I think is important is what the Sports Authority is doing here is unique. You don't really necessarily see a city or a body such as the Sports Authority making these kinds of overtures or statements as a body. So I think we have to think about what that means too. But I think the number one thing, given what the report tells us about the market and our venues, is we need to find, some type of ownership group that's interested in pursuing these opportunities. So there's a lot here of which to bundle together to think about what to do. I do think that it is something that we could do. We could have some kind of plan as a Sports Authority and how we accomplish what to do about number 5, the identifiable venue solutions, because we have great partners with a lot of our venues, and some of them are on this call today as part of our advisory group. And it would be, and I think Scott Ramsey had this as one of his observations when we had our calls, Monica and I had our calls with the groups of the advisory committee, was it's really nice for potential owners to know whether there is, a receptive, obviously nothing's written in stone, but a receptive venue for a team to play. That is an attraction for a potential owner. So I think number 5 is something as well within what we have our ability to do as a Sports Authority. I would be interested in what people think about how we engage in discussions with owners. I'm not sure how we as a Sports Authority can do that. And the other thing that I'm interested in hearing from is whether we need to actually hire another consultant to help us with these next steps, or whether I don't know if this is an and or, do we have some kind of marketing, make sure that we announce these findings in a way that's meaningful and helpful, and also at the same time have a consultant, or do we announce these, make an announcement about what we have, determined with our consultant, and then internally just work to go through some of these steps without a consultant further. One of those things I think is important is that, we had Kathy and Dan, a lot of discussion, and other Sports Authority members who attended this meeting about whether we could hire this consultant and without going through the lengthy procurement process that we have with Metro. So we could just get going. And obviously that was pre-pandemic. And so I think, first of all, if you don't mind, on the question of whether a consultant could help us, I'd like to turn it over to Monica and Margaret Darby to give us some input as to whether if we did want to hire somebody, what we would need to do going forward. So Monica and Margaret, could you help us with that?
Well, I think the first thing that is going to be essential to putting out a solicitation is going to be to nail down the scope and exactly what is it that we are asking them to do. That's the first thing that comes to my mind. I think that we're going to need to be very clear on our expectations and just the scope of work that we are soliciting. Margaret, Darby, I don't know if you have anything in terms of the actual procurement process. It's a lengthy process. I mean, I think we all know that. We've been working with them, them being the purchasing department, on several solicitations with regards to soccer. And we have one right now that we are still is in process. So I think that the committee would also need to look at the overall timing, because that will, I think, also determine how we would choose to move forward. Based on previous discussions with Margaret Darby, I don't think that there is a way to do this without a solicitation, working with procurement. Margaret, is that accurate?
Yeah, I agree with that. I think you covered all the points.
So,
Monica.
Michelle, is that you?
Yeah, sorry, Monica. Monica, you mentioned timing, and to me, that's the most important thing, especially with respect to engaging in ownership discussions. I mean, as someone who deals with owners of a professional franchise every day, this pandemic is a bloodbath. And I don't want us in haste of trying to move this process along to engage in these discussions at the wrong time. I think right now is a really, really difficult time to engage in discussions about ownership of any professional sports franchise because there's so much uncertainty. When are we going to be able to have full crowds again? What is the P&L going to look like post-COVID? I mean, there are so many things right now that I just want to throw out some words of caution about timing because of what this pandemic is doing to all of the sports world.
So Michelle, to piggyback on that, what do you envision our focus would be during this time?
I mean, I think if a consultant is something that we're going to be engaging in at some point in time, may as well use this time to have those conversations and see what type of consultant fits the need going forward. But I just think it's going to be really, really difficult to commit to any timing right now with it. Now, I'm interested in Brian and Daniel's input on the same. I mean, they exist in this space on a routine basis as well. But I think right now, anything we would be letting the rest of the Sports Authority consume the ICON report and talking about what next steps might be. But I just think it's impossible right now to ascribe a timeline to any of it.
Margaret, Kathy, this is Scott. I would piggyback on Michelle, and I guess a question again for Daniel and Brian a little bit is almost on the executive summary, could you flip number 1 and number 2, in that I know a lot of times the professional leagues will have to go through a pretty significant vetting process of any ownership group, as we saw with John Ingram and the soccer club. A lot of times those leagues will have some interested parties nationally that are interested in either an expansion or possible relocation that may be a minority owner of a current team or someone who's already expressed interest and gone through somewhat of the vetting process, especially because if you're going to be looking longer term, as Michelle indicated, which is probably most likely, you might find more interest coming from the ownership side in Nashville, as we're seeing with a lot of economic development here because of the market, and may come from the leagues. Now, CAA Icon works on that a lot more than I have any knowledge of. But I think that in hearing from my counterparts in other cities, you see that happening quite a bit.
Thanks, Scott. Appreciate those comments. Any other comments around Margaret's initial conversation? Committee members?
Yeah, this is Hogan. I have to agree with the concerns that have been registered. I think this would obviously be a terrible time to engage folks that are already in the business of managing professional sports teams, owning professional sports teams. But it does occur to me that we as a body, even prior to engaging a consultant, which I do think is the appropriate next step, we could begin to have some conversations pertinent to number 5, even in a theoretical manner, getting some buy-in from the folks that are managing these venues now and understanding more thoroughly their concerns and their priorities. I think in this down period of time, if that's what you want to call this, might be a best use of this space. And also, I'm very interested in keeping the effort going, right? Like, I don't want to hit such a lull that it gets shelved. And if there is anything that we as a body can legally engage in that moves the ball forward, there is value in that to me.
Yeah, I agree with you, Dan, because, I mean, no team, we're not going to get a team by next year. Anyway, we know that. And we know that any effort, that an owner has or would make or venue would make would be down the pike. So, I think I agree with you. I know I agree with you that we need to make sure that we keep this ball rolling and not go, this is just a very, very difficult time for sports teams. So we should be wary of this effort. And I don't think that's what Michelle and Scott are saying. I don't think that at all. I know how much they support this effort. But I do think that it is also a time where we can utilize a lot of our information, what the consultants have already given us, take this list and look at what we can do as individuals, as a sports authority, and maybe what we need a consultant to help us with too. I think that if we wait, though, for a consultant to give us the next report before we take any steps, we are waiting a year. So I think that's kind of why I was talking about, well, do we have a consultant, but what do we do? And what do we do even if we don't have a consultant? I think that's important for us to think about. Because just getting, and I want Monica and Margaret again to address this a little bit more specifically if you can. Let's just say that we write up what's right here. Take up, maybe tweak some that has to do with our facilities or things that we can do as our staff could do or assist with. If we took this summary and said this is what we would like a consultant to help us with going forward, so we already have what the scope is or part of, most of it, then we're ready to go. How long would it take to get this, the way procurement's working right now? How long would it take us to get a consultant hired? And then, of course, then the consultant needs time to do their work. So just to get the consultant hired, and approved, how long would that take? And I know you don't know exactly, Beverly. I get that.
I don't know exactly. I think if I look back to the current solicitation that we're working with for soccer, which, as the Sports Authority members would know, we've been talking about for months, and we hope that procurement will issue an intent to award in the coming weeks. The evaluation committee has met, but that is something that we've been talking about since probably May June, I think, is when we first started working on the solicitation, if that is helpful, Margaret. Right. So, I mean, I think it's.
So it's a half a year. Is that what you're saying? Maybe a half a year to get a consultant.
It always depends. I mean, it always depends on, you know, what's in their hopper and kind of where things are in the queue. But I don't think it's unrealistic to expect 4 to 6 months.
So, Margaret, along those lines, I totally agree. I want to keep this ball rolling. And I do think that conversations around venues, I think there's work that we can do. I think we've got our partners, and we need to start having the real conversations with them to see what potential opportunities are there. And also, one thing that I pulled out of the report from CAA ICOM was they really felt was critical as well. And so I would be concerned about the marketing piece and our approach to that. And so really knowing how we're going to roll it out, I think that we can do a lot of work in that area as we, you know, move through this pandemic. So those are just.
And Margaret, I just want to make sure that my comments are not misunderstood for trying to stifle the effort. That's not at all what my comments are about.
I thought I addressed that, but I didn't think that.
I'm very supportive.
Go ahead, please go ahead.
Yeah, I'm very supportive of this. I just, you know, I have the perspective of talking to owners of a professional sports franchise every day and talking to other teams, and it's just a tough time to get. So I don't want us to go forward with ownership recruitment right now, because the result of it might be quite different than it would be if we wait until a bit later to do that. But in no way does that mean that we can't continue to move forward with the effort, because there's plenty to do short of that.
Other
Yeah, I think Kathy and Dan, and everybody else, but I'm trying to figure out what, you know, having our committee structure too. You know, when I look at this, I think it would be helpful for us to think about looking at these next steps, and there could be other ones too, but obviously taking this summary and look and see if there's anything in particular that we think as what is it that we as a sports authority could continue to do, maybe present it like that to the entire board, and then be able to help if we're moving this process along, knowing that it'll take 4 to 6 months to be able to craft what the major part of what our solicitation would be, you know, for procurement purposes, because I think they've given us quite a good roadmap here. You know, I agree with Dan that I think 5, and Kathy, that 5 stands out as something that we can recommend, not only for the consultants to help us with, but we could be doing in the interim.
And Margaret, I would suggest we could be meeting with some of the other potentially helpful partners in the city.
Number 3, Dan, is that what you're thinking?
Yes.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
So maybe our first step might be, Margaret, to really look at these and maybe reprioritize them for us, these steps, and put them in a way that they're useful for us, so that we can use that as our measurement to know when we should or consider putting something through if we need additional consultant assistance. But if we can get it in a manner so that we can start working a timeline of the things that we can accomplish as a committee and a board, and work our way down. So maybe we can just reconfigure this recommendation so that it is prioritized to the work we can do.
Yeah, and I liked what Scott suggested in that vein of what you're just talking about. You know, and not that necessarily the order is that important, you know, because these are all things the consultant would do, but taking into consideration what Michelle said too, that we, you know, that we have the consultant number 2. And then we just, redo this order, making follow discussions being a top priority and a market analysis a top priority too.
Margaret,
Yes.
Just kind of reflecting back, I feel like going down the track of what you're talking about now parallels almost the expansion bid of the Predators in the 90s when, we just built the arena and the mayor and the political and the private leadership really put the lease and the venue plan on the table for potential owners to review and consider.
Right.
And that's maybe a similar path we could go along now versus maybe, the process that went through with soccer, which was much different, and building a facility and all that, where we now could have the facilities in place and we could go down more of that path where, the first question the owners are going to have, we're going to have the answers for, which is going to be about what Michelle alluded to, is where am I going to play and what's my business deal going to be? You could have some of those things in place, and that accelerated that finding of Craig Leopold at that time, if you recall, that came through the vetting process in the NHL. So I think it seems like it's running a very parallel course to that discussion, of which we've got some, experience in as a city.
Yeah. Yeah.
Margaret, it's Ian here. I agree with Scott.
Hi, Ian.
Hi. Sorry, I was a little late joining.
I'm so glad you're with us.
Yeah, I had to go COVID testing as normal. So, yeah, I agree. I think also, I think we shouldn't underestimate the importance of 4 in the short term as well. I know from the experience that Nashville Soccer Club had at a minor league level, and then obviously coming to Major League Soccer, that understanding the operating performance will really determine the venue to some degree. So knowing what sort of audience we could expect, knowing what sort of operating costs we could expect, will help determine what size of venue and which venue and at what price. And it was why at the minor league level for Nashville, it was a much easier decision to be at First Tennessee Park rather than Nissan, because the numbers just didn't work in such a big venue. And as much as we are supportive of having all soccer at the new stadium, it's a big old stadium for if we expect a small audience. So we need to make sure we get that sequencing right as well. I think it's really important.
No, I think that's really, really helpful.
Yeah, we couldn't have operated our minor league team at Nissan. The losses would have just been way too out of kilter.
I have a question, if you don't mind.
Sure.
And this might be a Margaret Darby question. Is the right group having some of these conversations with political subdivisions, private partners, local universities, and the venue representatives themselves? Is the right group on our behalf the ad hoc committee, or is that something that would not fall within their purview? Can you help me understand that, please?
I think that it could fall within the purview of the ad hoc committee, but it seems also that the outside steering committee, sorry, I don't recall the name of that committee right now, but the advisory committee, that's it. That the advisory committee may also have a role to play there as well.
Yeah, I think that you're asking, can more than one of us go and talk to these folks? And, I don't know if we'd be making any decisions. I can't imagine that we would. We would just be.
It would be my advice if there were going to be more than one person from the sports authority going to speak, that the ad hoc committee would maybe delegate that to a person and then to come back and report.
Right, as a board member, but obviously the board member could go with Monica or something like that. So with staff.
Correct.
Yeah.
have a question. This is Kim Adkins. Does it make sense, or is the timing not appropriate, to encourage our partners and all of us to share and really promote the findings of the consultant's assessment to date, or is that premature? I mean, I know we're trying not to lose momentum, but we're trying to certainly understand the current environment and be sensitive to the realities of that. But does that help set the tone and keep the conversation going, or is that premature? I guess that's a question for maybe our chair and her feedback, and Monica, anyone who wants to jump in.
You know, I thank you, Madam Chair, for being on the call today. My personal opinion is, with all the Titans and the Predators and everyone has on their plates, I don't know that we get the attention that we would want, or the amount of sarcasm around promoting something new, because everybody's trying to just maintain at this stage. So I just go back to the timing issue. I go back to, how do you really want to bring it out? And I think it's going to be so critical that coming off of something like COVID, that it comes out in a really positive way for the city. The city's dealing with a lot of other issues, so it's going to be important how we market this. And so I'm concerned about the timing of just putting it out there. I think we might lose momentum if we put it out too soon and we don't have a plan. So that's my position.
So Dan, hi. Dan Barrett. I think you are
Hello, Margaret.
ready to, I know you've been ready before now to say something, but when it comes to marketing support, I know you're ready. So what do you think?
Well, I appreciate you letting us participate in this call, and I think that the comments and discussion are right on. I think that Michelle and Scott, their points about the impacts of the pandemic on franchises are absolutely correct. I mean, it's a bloodbath for teams right now. But at the same time, I would say, out of chaos comes opportunities. And so you are seeing people coming out of the woodwork looking for opportunities with different leagues. And I don't know if this is sacrilegious to say, so I'll retract it immediately if I get a negative reaction to it. But, Real Salt Lake was put on the market. They have an MLS team. They have an NWSL team. JJ Watt has expressed an interest in buying into that with a specific focus on NWSL, as have some others.
Well, I'm going to interrupt you, Dan, because his wife is a soccer player.
Correct.
She is the one who wants a soccer team. She plays for Chicago. So
correct.
Yes. So that has to do, he's watched a lot of women's soccer.
Yep. And Donovan Mitchell and Josie Altidore and others are very interested in women's soccer. And I'm not suggesting that they're the right ownership group. A couple of them are clients. That's the only reason that I bring that up. They're CAA clients, but they've openly expressed interest in it, particularly JJ Watt. And so, I think the difference or the key issue that I would want to focus on is when you're talking about minor league teams and the type of investment that you're looking at, particularly for NWSL and WNBA, it's a little bit of a different equation than when you're looking at an expansion team for MLS or NHL, a couple decades ago. It is a little bit different. And, I think that when we first started this, we were thinking, we would release a report. It would be, publicized through the media, locally, regionally, potentially nationally as well. We would try to promote it and it would generate some momentum. I agree with everybody's comments that this is not the time to have that type of an announcement. I just don't feel that it would resonate the way you would want it to resonate, either with the leagues or potential ownership groups. But I do think that you can simplify this, quite a bit, given the timing and the circumstances that we're in. We initially had this in a specific order because we thought, based on the unique circumstances in Nashville with the ownership groups that you have currently, that this made sense. If you identified potential owners that were interested, you found out from the leagues, what interest they have in the market, what they're looking for from venues, what their timelines are. You got the partners locally. I think it was, I'm not sure whose comment it was. Maybe it was Scott's comment about, having a lease in place. Looking at the market and the operating performance, I think, one of the things that I think you can do now, there are certain steps that you can, the obvious steps that you can do now. One is, if you're looking at the NWSL, the first place you're going to want to start is with the Ingram family and see if there's an interest there, or with the partners with the organization. To me, having local ownership with the financial wherewithal and experience is the right starting point. And you don't need a consultant to have that conversation. You guys can have that conversation yourselves, obviously. And then the question is the WNBA or the NWHL? The NWHL is a little bit in, they've got some issues right now. They just got rid of their commissioner. And so, I think that was a distant third in our list to start with. If you narrow this down, I think there are some things that you could be doing right now. I think that there are certain criteria that leagues are looking for from a venue perspective. There are certain preferences that ownership groups are looking for from a venue perspective. And depending on the ownership group, it could be very different. Having an outside consultant, whether it's us or someone else that has experience there, can help you narrow the list of venues that you're looking at to see which ones are really, realistic from a size standpoint, as Ian was pointing out, realistic from an economic standpoint, realistic from a scheduling and timing perspective. Can you accommodate a WNBA team in Bridgestone right now, given the concert schedule that venue has? Are there other venues that you should be looking at? Those are things that we can help you with, or that an outside consultant can help you with. But overlaying that with what you would perceive an owner to want, that we represent typically, and that a league would require, are different elements that would go into that equation. And so the reason we had that as 5 was because we thought that if you figured out, okay, we've got an ownership group, we've narrowed it down to an ownership group, we've narrowed it down to a specific league, we've had conversations with those owners in those leagues, how can we help get that lease and that venue in place? What is it going to cost to get the venue up to speed? That's why we had that in that order originally. Now that we're in the circumstance that we're in, I think there are things that you can be doing that maybe buys you some time. And one of those things, for example, is doing some survey work to see what the preference of the market is in terms of league and team. There may be a significant preference for a WNBA team over a NWHL team. And looking at, doing that type of survey work, I think would be productive. I don't think it would be insensitive to look at the market and do that type of survey work. It would also give you an indication that you can take to prospective owners that says, look at, here's the interest and the preference from the market's perspective. Here's what the corporate community is saying about willingness to potentially support, this team. That could be a valuable tool as you go to the leagues or you go to prospective ownership groups, and can also help narrow your focus in terms of which venues to be looking at. So that may be something that, you could consider doing. I do think having a conversation, with the MLS ownership group about NWSL is a logical next step. I just think going to specific venues at this point, going to the political partners, private partners, maybe a little bit premature, without having more specificity around what you're looking for, who the ownership group might be, what the timing is. I think one of the keys to success with any expansion franchise is most recently, is having the ability to ramp up and having an appropriate amount of time to market the franchise before you actually start play. It's a key requirement in many leagues these days to make sure that you have enough time. And the reason is because what they've seen is that teams, particularly in relocation scenarios, that have to ramp up and have 2, 3, 4 months before the season starts to get situated is not a great formula for success. And so, the preference these days is to make sure that there's enough time. And so even if we said today, go, you're probably looking at a 2022 scenario before you have a team playing. And so I think given where the conditions are right now, taking the time, not coming out prematurely and trying to market something, but doing the things that you can do behind the scenes, I think makes a lot of sense. And then just selfishly, I'll ask 2 questions of Monica and Margaret. On the procurement side, we went through a mini procurement process. Are we not able to, because all this stuff we can help you with. I mean, again, selfishly, we can help you with all these steps and help you through the process. Are we not able to amend our contract, within the original contract to do some of these things? That's the first question. And then the second question or suggestion is something that we've done in the past where we've actually worked for a consortium of private entities, whether it's a group of teams or corporations that, retain us privately to do a similar study, is something that we've gone through in the past before. So those were just 2 questions or suggestions that if you're concerned about the timing of procurement, that I would just put out there.
I'll address the first question. This is Margaret Darby. And that is, we did go through a quasi procurement to bring y'all on. But, we advised the committee at the time that, if it was going to be, if we were going to look to go into a phase 2 kind of period, that we would have to go back through a formal procurement process because of the dollar amount. If we exceed a certain dollar amount, then we need to go through a formal procurement process. And of course, if that were to go out, I think everyone would expect CA Icon to bid on that. But that is something that would be required at this time to move forward. And we can't just amend the contract to try to circumvent that process. And I apologize that I didn't follow the second question very closely. If you want to repeat that, I might try might be able to answer that.
Sure, it's really just kind of looking at an alternative way to get engaged through, there are teams, there are other entities that are private entities that could retain us separately to do this scope. And that was just, something that we've done in the past. So I don't think there's not really a legal analysis there. It's just a question of whether that's a path you guys want to go down or not. So anyway, it was just a suggestion.
Well, Dan, you know that I like whatever we can do to move things forward, but I think because we are a governmental entity, there are certain things that we can do and can't do that in order to be transparent and follow the rules. So that was really helpful. Kathy, I know we're getting into almost an hour now. And Dan, so I'm going to just babble a little bit about a potential motion in order to make a recommendation. And y'all kind of help me, all right? So, Kathy, are you there? And Dan?
I'm here, yes.
All right.
You too.
So I think the sense of this meeting today is that we should not market this report yet. So that is not what I think we ought to do going forward. Do you and Kathy, do you and Dan agree with that?
I agree with that.
Yeah, definitely.
Okay. All right. And so I recommend that we recommend to the full board that we do hire a consultant to help us to go about these next steps, and that these next steps are not necessarily in any priority. So we don't use the language here in terms of priority order, and so these are the things that the consultant will help us do. And then the committee itself will reconvene and determine which of these items or anything else in addition to this that we want to recommend that the Sports Authority, the committee, or the advisory committee do to move this process forward.
Margaret, this is Dan. I would add to that I think Dan Barrett's suggestion of a community survey to gauge enthusiasm would be a very powerful tool.
Yes, I like that too.
So let's add that.
Go ahead. Sorry, I didn't know if you thought we need a consultant or we do that ourselves.
I think that's an outsourced service to be done more effectively external to the Sports Authority than internal. I think that would be worth paying for, quite honestly.
Margaret, Darby, could we pay for that? Could we hire somebody to do that without going through this procurement process like we would hire any consultant for anything?
Yeah, I think it would depend on the dollar amount of the service.
Yeah, but likely
yes, I think
less than 25,000.
I would hope so. And I would think, though, that you would be able to do that without going through that formal process.
I like that a lot.
Yes, I do too. I think that's a great idea. I love the idea. So. And I would like for us to try to pursue that, as Margaret said, aside from the consultant. So that's something we could do locally. So is that Margaret, are you making a motion?
I think I just did.
Okay, that's what I wanted to say. I think you did. Okay, so we have a motion on the floor.
And I have to say, well, let's vote on it, I guess. But in making that motion, I just so appreciate who was on the call today and you all helping guide us to these next steps and your interest. It was really, really helpful. All of you all who spoke up, your input was very helpful. Thank you. All right, I so moved.
Just to clarify the motion before I second it, we are making a motion to hire a consultant, or to recommend to the board to hire a consultant to execute on these 6 priorities as defined in the executive summary in whatever order is deemed appropriate. And separately, we are looking to contract with an entity to do some survey work as to the community's interest and enthusiasm for which of these particular franchises that we would need to engage and other areas. Correct?
Correct. And also, that was very well said. And I hope that whoever does that just says it, types it like Dan just said it. What's the motion? And also to include that we as a committee will get together and determine which of these items, in addition to anything else, that we as a committee might work on too, pending the consultant's report.
Madam Chair, I second all of that.
Okay, great. We have a motion and a second, and we will have a vote. All those in favor of moving forward with the motion on the floor, please signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Okay. All right. Motion passes unanimously. Thank you all for your conversation. Thank you for the input. I'm excited about this. I do feel like we're moving forward. And not as fast as you want to, Margaret, I know, but we are moving. And I too want to thank everybody for taking the time to be on this call today. I think we had a great dialogue. It's important that our partners speak up because the work we're doing is for the city of Nashville. So hopefully everyone will be a part of it. And I think we've accomplished what we set out to do today. And so at the October 29th Sports Authority meeting, there will be a committee report. That motion will be presented to the full board as a recommendation from this committee. Any other comments before we close this meeting out? In less than an hour, I'm very impressed, very impressed. Okay, well, if nothing else, thank you all for being on the call, Thank you all for comments, and have a great rest of the week. Bye now.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
This has been a service of the Metro Nashville Network. If you would like to see this presentation again, or for more information about this and other programs, visit nashville.gov.